Hello and welcome to Stories, the True and the Fictional, the variety show that revolves around one central theme: stories and the people that tell them. If you haven't done so already, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. And hey, if you're feeling up for it, leave a comment down below, let us know you subscribed, and we will give you a shout out. We here at Stories, the True and the Fictional love giving shout outs to authors, both seasoned and new. Today we're giving a special shout out to author Julian Mims from New Providence in the Bahamas. He has a book out called Sandy Black and the Seven Giants. Just before her mother passes away, Sandy Black is told the truth about her father, a man she has never known. The shocking news will reveal an extraordinary new world filled with high adventure, fantastical realms, and creatures beyond her wildest dreams. Buy a copy of Sandy Black and the Seven Giants at truevinepublishing.org or follow the link in the show notes. Hello and welcome, guys, to this episode of Story Chat. We've got a guest, Dan Lehman. Is that how we pronounce your name?
It is indeed.
Perfect.
As in layman's terms?
Yeah. Oh. Do you want to discuss your terms? How are you, Dan?
I'm doing all right. Like I just mentioned a moment ago, we were running a Kickstarter that all just got wrapped up and all that, and spending a lot of time with my daughter. So been doing all right. How about you guys?
Yep, going well.
Yeah. Nice and cold here this morning. I woke up and actually put the heater on for the first time. Because over here we're sort of, well, we're in autumn, which is fall for you. So it's just starting to get really, really, really cold.
Now, excuse my Americanism, but what's cold to you? Because over here they kind of portray Australia as like always.
Yeah,
So
no, not quite. It's been a weird one. This summer is our coldest summer ever.
Okay.
We had more rain this summer than we've had in any summer in, I think, the last 20 to 25 years. Yeah, so at the moment, I can tell you right exactly with my trusty smartphone what the degrees is. At the moment, we are sitting at, and I'm in Sydney, we are at a balmy 4 degrees.
4 degrees. And that's
yeah,
Celsius, I'm assuming?
Yeah, Celsius. So I think it's
probably
double.
like 42 degrees.
Yeah, something like that.
Fahrenheit? Okay, so that is a little cold. I haven't converted Fahrenheit to Celsius in a long time, so I think it's been since like ninth grade. So
well, the weirdest thing over here is because where my computer's set, I've got a window, and you wouldn't think it'd be this cold. It's a beautiful blue sky, sun's out, everything like that. But it is absolute, and I don't feel the cold at all. I'm not a person who feels the cold. So if I think it's cold, it's cold.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Our weather here has been all over the place, though. It's been a roller coaster. It's been we had a couple days last week where 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and then 2 days went by and it snowed.
Yeah.
What is this? Why is it? You remember yesterday when we packed away our long sleeve shirts because
you
it
can't
was
even do that
officially
anymore.
Summertime? Like, not anymore.
No, not at all. No, global warming doesn't exist, of course, but we won't go into that. That's another podcast. No, I just like it how in Australia we're known for having about 4 different seasons in one day.
Yeah.
So recently I was at work, and I work right near a massive creek, and if that floods, it breaks the road, and we're stuck. So it was my second day at my brand new job, and they said, "Oh, just a heads up, you might have to evacuate and work from home." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Why? A beautiful sunny day. Within about an hour, it had turned into a torrential rainfall, and we got evacuated. I got home. It was then sunny again, and then at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my street was almost flooded. So yeah, it's nice. Crazy times out here in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, that's not why we haven't gotten you on to talk about weather. We've gotten you on to talk about some amazing Kickstarter, but we'll get into that soon. But we always crack in with the icebreaker questions just to get to know our guests a little bit. So if it's okay with you, Daniel, we'll kick it off now with these icebreakers.
All right.
Excellent. So I'll take the first one because I'm the boss. Yeah, I like the third question. And Jamie doesn't have a say in it. He just reads the ones that I don't want to read. So Daniel, if you could get rid of one thing in this world, what would it be?
See, that's a tough one because the fantasy author in me really wants to say like some legal like loophole answer where the lack of magic is what I would get rid of, and but that's kind of adding something, so I feel like it's avoiding the spirit of the question. So if I had to pick,
you know what,
one thing, I would go with misunderstandings. I feel like if we got rid of misunderstandings, we'd be able to clear up a lot of the crap that goes on in the world.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And look, Daniel, because you are on our podcast, I'm going to allow your first getting rid of the lack of magic, because
Awesome.
we are massive fantasy buffs here. With me and Jamie, we're in a Dungeons and Dragons live role playing podcast for about 3 years, so we're all about that. So yeah.
That's actually how I research all my characters. I play them in Dungeons and Dragons.
Nice.
Cool.
So yeah,
nice.
I've explained it to a couple of different authors trying to figure out how just creating a person with a personality and stuff like that. And if you play them in D&D, not only do you get to decide like their personality, but you also run them through experiences that you didn't necessarily think of. Yep. So you get a feel for how they would respond in these other circumstances. So I don't know, it helps me.
No, 100%. And, you know, we've been into Dungeons and Dragons for a very, very, very long time. We love our fantasy. Obviously, we all grew up on Lord of the Rings, the books and the films. You know, so we've been, well, I'll happily allow magic into this world if it was possible. It'd make life a hell of a lot more interesting.
What edition did you guys start playing in?
Me personally, I started on 3rd a long time ago before I met Jamie and
the best edition
and the other guys. Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, look, to be honest, we started we played on our podcast 5th edition, which look, I guess because we did it so much, I kind of fall towards that. But our DM also incorporated, we sort of molded it to suit this because we're storytellers, so we kind of molded it to suit that. So we also used the fusion system, which I can really enjoy using. We did, I think our first campaign was in 5th edition, and then we moved over to fusion, which was actually really interesting. You know, more combat based style. So gotcha. I really enjoyed that.
Murder
too.
Hobos.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I played in high school 3rd edition, so that's what I started on. But yeah, I do like, I never played 4th. I never played Pathfinder. But
I
5th edition,
4th.
Yeah.
It was not for me. I tried so hard to get it. Yeah, 5th felt a lot closer to 3rd. Almost too close, because when we first started playing 5th, we ended up extremely overpowered because there were certain rules from 3rd and 3.5 that we just knew off the top of our hands, so we never bothered to look it up in 5th edition. Your first level, you get a feat.
Yep.
Your 3rd level, you get a feat. In 5th level, or in 5th edition, you don't do that with feats. They're supposed to be rare.
So you guys would be you guys would get to like a pack of skeletons and you'd be God mode enabled pretty much.
Well, we took Demogorgon at level 4. Like we just two monks using 3rd edition rules and what the book for monk says in 5th edition, and yeah, it was not pretty. Like, it was not pretty at all. But you know, it's just AC alone in 5th edition, you get a 21 AC and you're good. You
pretty much
can carry that 21 AC up 10, 15 levels.
Yeah.
And in third edition, if you don't have 21 AC by level 2, you're doing it wrong. Like, or third
Oh
edition.
man. Yeah. No, I agree. I started, that was a long time ago when I started on that. So it's I suppose it was a good jumping on point for me.
Yeah.
So all right, Jamie, do you want to take the next question?
All right, Dan, well, tell us something that's on your bucket list.
I want to go to Scotland. I want to me and my wife visit Scotland. I was actually born there, as you can tell by my thick accent. Yeah, I was born in Thurso, Scotland. I came over to America when I was 4. And I've lived here ever since, and you know, I see it in movies and stuff like that, and I just see it before I die. And other than like stereotypical stuff, like I want to see my kids grow up and be happy and so on and so forth. But the only thing that I truly want to do just for me is go see Scotland.
My people are from Scotland as well, from Glasgow. So I feel I want to. My dad's had the privilege of going over and, you know, touring pretty much all over. It's on my bucket list too. It's a beautiful country over there. I'd absolutely love to go. I've never been, so I'd love to go over and explore.
Yeah,
so we get a lot of people saying that.
I don't know what the city, if you want to call it that, the town that I was born in, I don't know what they look like now. I'm too afraid to Google it. When I was born there, it was an extremely small town. Like the doctor who delivered me actually had to go home because he had a sheep in labor at the same time. So like and then I came out with hair looking like this, and the common joke was that he mixed them up, but whatever. Bye.
Yeah. No, hopefully now that the world is sort of opening up a bit, you know, we can start making those things on our bucket list a little bit more real.
Yeah.
So, that's great. Okay. All right. The next question is the ultimate question. So this one for me is my ultimate judgment question. If you've listened to our podcast, you know I don't really mince words, so I will judge harshly, Daniel, on this question. So no, it's all fun and games. So first of all, this can be a two-parter if you need it to be. So what is the greatest sitcom ever made? And if it's not your favorite, what is your favorite?
That's a tough one. I've been thinking about it for a while because I saw it on the list, and I just picking one is extremely difficult for me because they all have their own good thing. It's like, I'll sit down and watch Seinfeld and enjoy it. I'll sit down and watch, you know, I can't even remember the name of it. The one with Frasier. It's called Frasier.
It's Frasier, yeah.
Frasier, that 70s show, How I Met Your Mother. I'll watch any of them. The whole, it's so natural the way everything goes. But if I had to pick one, I would have to go with The Office. And I know
US or
people
UK
hate
version?
It. Huh?
The US or the UK version?
I haven't actually seen the UK version. It's not available over here. So it would be the US version, and then they took that off, so that's not available over here anymore either. But unless I get yet another streaming service.
Yeah, we're lucky over here. We've got it on a few out here, because, you know, we take offense to nothing, so they don't take anything down really. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm actually in the middle of a rewatch, my second or third rewatch of the series at the moment. Absolutely fantastic show. Steve Carell is Michael Scott in my eyes, and always will be. You know, it's just it's something I put on when I've had a rough day and I just want to have a bit of a laugh. Yeah, you know, so 100% on board with that. If you do get a chance to check out the UK version anytime, Ricky Gervais, it's fantastic as well. I think it's not as big as a commitment because the UK only believe in having 6 episodes. Yeah, 6 episodes a season. So it's only 12 episodes to watch. But yeah, it's really good. I'm a massive Ricky Gervais fan, and yeah, that show is fantastic.
Gotcha. I don't know actors and actresses' names all that well, so I don't
Okay.
know who Ricky Gervais.
He's
Gervais,
the guy
you said?
Yeah, he's the guy that did that speech at the Oscars a couple of years back and just like offended everyone.
Wow. I know one thing that happened at the Oscars, and I'm supposed to keep it out of my mouth. I ain't trying to get slapped.
Oh man, that was like, I lost so much respect for Will Smith after that event. Like, he was one of my favorite actors, and I would pretty much watch anything that he was in.
I just love the dumbfounded look on Kevin Hart's face, where he's just like, Will Smith just like, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this or not.
Yeah, you can swear. That's fine.
Okay.
I swear all the time.
Yeah, just the Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me. Like, he was just so dumbfounded by it. Like, he couldn't actually believe it just happened.
Yeah.
But what I said is, you see Will Smith actually laughing at the joke. He then looks at his wife's face. He's not impressed, and then telepathically she said, "You better get up there and defend me." And then he just goes into.
Yeah, I saw that online. There's all kinds of people posting things like August wouldn't have let him say that about me, and then Will Smith marching up to the stage.
Got a lot of good memes out of it.
Yeah.
Fair
Let's
amount.
move on to the zombie apocalypse. Have you got a plan over there?
Realistically, I would die. But I mean, I'm not the most physically fit person. I'm a pack a day smoker. Rule number one with the cardio, I'm already gone. But I mean, I am a fantasy writer. By law, I am required to own a sword. So I have a sword in case, I want to sword fight zombies, but it is weighted for display, not for combat. So I'd get tired quickly, and I don't know. I think I'd make it a couple of weeks. We do have a McDonald's right down the street, so as long as they stayed open, I'd be good.
That's what you could do. What you could do is you could herd all the zombies in there, put them to work, and then they can just, I mean, it doesn't take much to work at Macca's or McDonald's, so you can just put them behind the counter. And they could just start serving, and then you'd be sweet. You'd last a hell of a lot longer than for a few weeks.
Well, our McDonald's doesn't even require people behind the counter anymore.
Well, there you go.
You place the order yourself on a touch screen when you walk in. They do have someone who sits behind the counter and watches you do it. Not really sure why. not really sure why. The point of automation is to replace. Especially because I've seen some older people come in and have trouble with the touchscreen. They don't know how to work the technology. They're like, "Can you with this?" And the person behind the counter is like, "Nope."
The old people.
What are you doing?
The old people just say, "Can you help me with that?" Then the person behind the counter rolls a stealth check. No, sorry, you can't see me.
Why are you rolling dice at work?
Don't tell me how to do my job. This last question is one of my favorites as well. Mr. Elon Musk gives you a call and says, "Daniel, I've just invented an electric time machine, and I want you to be the first person ever to test drive it." Where do you go and what do you do?
See, I need one point of clarification for this. Am I allowed to come back to now?
Yeah.
I leave, and then whatever happens, I come back to now.
Yeah, so he gives you a watch which has a button, and as soon as you're ready to come back, providing the watch is not damaged, you press the button and you're back to your own time.
Okay. Well, when I come back to my own time, does anything I have with me come with me? Like if I jump 1,000 years into the future and pick up a hover car and then jump back in time, do I have the hover car?
Oh, yeah, we'll allow it, yeah.
All right.
But
then
you have to be able to fit the item in your hands.
Okay. So not a hover car.
Yeah.
Maybe a hoverboard, but not a hover car.
Yeah, hoverboard Marty McFly style. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I think what I would do is probably about a year in the future, and take a spiral ring notebook with me, and write down literally everything the stock market did, and every winning Powerball number, every lottery number, and come back and then invest heavily. And anytime I saw somebody that was, having a rough day, I'd give them a lottery ticket with the winning numbers on it.
Well, Daniel, I'd just like to tell you I'm having a bit of a rough day today.
I'll go ahead and time travel and get you a lottery ticket.
So we like to call that the Biff Tannen approach to time travel.
Exactly. Yes.
The sports
I would want to go forward and then come back so that I don't disrupt anything current. Because I've met me, I know my luck. If I go back in time to do something similar, some butterflies somewhere would sneeze incorrectly, and then I would have never been born. And all of a sudden, my wife is married to a turtle, and it would just ruin everything. So
and then there'd be a mediocre Ashton Kutcher movie about you, and it's just like it'd be called the Daniel Butterfly Effect.
See,
so
I don't think that movie was mediocre. I think that movie was awesome for one main reason. They released it into theaters and had a different ending sent to all these different theaters and just didn't tell anybody.
Oh, wow.
And people years later were arguing over the ended until they were in the middle of this argument, and they looked it up and they're like, holy shit. How did I not know?
I did hear about that. I did hear that they sent out a fair few different endings to different places, and then they compiled them all on the DVD release, I think, so that people could just actually see the different endings.
Yeah.
So, look, I think it was a good movie for its time. I just like.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It was riddled with plot holes. It was like the whole prove to my cellmate that I'm Jesus by stabbing my hands on these paper clips. That's not how timelines work. You've always had those scars now.
Yeah,
exactly.
It wouldn't have proven anything to him because he's always known you as having those scars.
Yeah.
So, but it was an all right movie. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it was all right for its time.
It's better than the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender. So it's a low bar, but it's a bar nonetheless.
I'm trying to block that movie from my mind. As a fan of the actual cartoon, I'm trying to block that from my mind permanently.
You don't like the Ongung?
I don't like any of it. I don't like that. Like, I'm a fan of M. Night Shyamalan, and he just said, okay, here's Avatar: The Last Airbender. He wrote the script, took a big shit on it, and then put it out into the universe. And if we had our other friend Chris on here, who's a massive Avatar Airbender fan, this podcast would go for about 7.5 hours. So that's just so let's not get started on that. Okay. I watched Spider-Man last night. I'm in a good place mentally for movies. All right. I apologize. But no, that's okay. We'll forgive you this time. But let's get to the reason why we've actually got you on this podcast. We want to talk about. So first of all, we're going to talk about obviously your Kickstarter with is it pronounced Akynd?
Yes, like a pun would imply.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. But first of all, tell us about how you got into writing, like how you started on this journey, and give us a bit of background.
Okay. So when I was super young, I got started on Hooked on Phonics. Do you guys have that in Australia? Hooked on Phonics.
I don't think so.
It's a little learn to read thing for like young children, and I started at like 3. So by the time I was in kindergarten, I was reading very well. I was reading Animorphs, if you're familiar with it.
I know Animorphs.
Applegate. Yeah. And that was in kindergarten. All my peers were, learning the ABCs at the time, and I would just get a pass because I could already read. And then things went on, but reading writing, for that matter, was always this unobtainable thing. It wasn't a thing that real people did. It was this mysterious thing, kind of like being a movie star. That's just it. It wasn't an obtainable goal. It was just, these are the people who wrote. If you want to read something, you have to get something from them. And then in third grade, I had a creative writing teacher who showed me that, anyone can write. It's not just something for these random names on books. It's anybody can do it. And she gave us this creative writing assignment, and we're supposed to do 3 paragraphs on whatever we wanted. And I turned mine in 2 weeks late, so I lost some points, but it was 36 pages long. So I got a couple extra points because I had gone so far above and beyond. And she had talked to me a little bit about being a writer and so on. And long story short, after years and years and years of messing with it as a hobby, I finally decided to settle down and write a book, an actual book, not a fanfic or anything like that, just an actual thing that I created everything in it and go from there. Does that answer your question? I gotta be honest, I forgot the question at this point.
No, that's okay. It was just like just an introduction on how you got into writing. So yeah, that definitely answers the question.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Mid-brand.
Do you want to take the next one? Yeah, no, that's okay. We do that as a lot.
No,
do you want to take the next one, Jamie?
I think I will take the next one. Is there any are your favorite books, authors that inspired you to get better at what you do?
There's 3 who inspired me in a good way, and one who inspired me in a bad way. R.A. Salvatore, if you're familiar with him, I'm assuming because D&D fantasy nerds, you guys, Driss Saga, he was a big one.
Yeah.
Anne Rice for Interview with the Vampire.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then J.K. Rowling for her books and her books alone. Nothing to do with her personality. Just to be clear.
I agree.
And then the bad inspiration would be Stephanie Meyer for Twilight.
Twilight.
Because I don't know, there's something so motivating about the fact that if you can bedazzle a corpse and still make it into a viable product that people enjoy, if she can do it, you can do it. You know what I mean? It's the ultimate go get him tiger.
Yeah, pretty much. I will admit, I have read the books, and I do really enjoy the books.
The Twilight books?
The Twilight books. Yeah, not so much the movie. Because obviously, and I don't hold anyone responsible for that, because it's impossible to get everything into a 2-hour movie. You know what I mean? But yeah, I grew up on Harry Potter. I love the Harry Potter books, read them many times. Yeah, I'm with you there. I like how you've got a lot of different elements of different types of fantasy in your inspirations there. You've got the supernatural fantasy, you've got the wizards and warlocks. Obviously, you've D&D as well, but the Harry Potter side of things. And then, with Anne Rice, I'm a big Anne Rice fan. The fact that you're taking from different elements of the fantasy world. I think that's good. You're not just sticking to one. Okay, I'm just going to go with the fan side of things, the wizards and warlocks and all that kind of thing. So I think that's really good.
Yeah, and Anne Rice was something good. She actually bought a copy of my book the first time I published.
Wow.
Because I reached out to her, J.K. Rowling, and R.A. Salvatore. It was pre J.K. Rowling's thing. Reached out to each of them to say, hey, look, I wanted to thank you guys for inspiring me to write. So if you could give me a P.O. box, I'd like to send you a signed copy as thanks. And J.K. Rowling's assistant got back to me and said, she's not going to have time for that. You might as well just throw the book in the trash, because if it gets here, that's what we're going to do. Cool. Thanks. That's super supportive. And then Ari Salvatore got back to me and he's like, that's awesome. You know, I have a bookshelf dedicated to books like these. I am going to be upfront with you. I probably won't have time to read the whole thing, but it will be on my bookshelf of honor forever. Like that's what I do with these kinds of things. And I was like, that's awesome, man. It doesn't get better than that. And then Anne Rice decided to prove him wrong or prove me wrong. She swooped in and she's like, I'm not going to give you my P.O. box because you supported me all these years in my dream. The least I can do is support you in yours. So send me a link. I'll buy it. I'll let you know what I think. Yeah, right. You'll let me know what you think. And I sent her the link. And she got back to me a couple days later and she's like, I really liked it. And your one character actually kind of reminds me of Claudia. And she like in-depth description. And I was like, what the like, holy shit, man.
Wow.
She's suing you for plagiarism.
I have been told that she was very anti fanfic and stuff like that. So if she was gonna go that route, I feel like she would have. And one guy actually suggested on Reddit that maybe she suggested that my character Gabrielle reminded her of Claudia to see if I would say something along the lines of, oh, that's who inspired her, or something like that, so that she could go, ha, gotcha, bitch, and run off to the lawyer. Like, but I don't know. To me, she was always extremely nice, and the whole interaction was so wholesome, and I was sad to see her go.
Yeah. No, and that's a really, you know what, we never hear stories like that. You know, I mean, J.K. Rowling, I kind of, not gonna lie to you, as much as I love Harry Potter, I kind of expected that. Because, you know, like even when charities reach out to her, that I've heard some stories that they're just like, we don't want anything to do with that. So
charities are one thing though. I'm not asking you for money.
No,
I am literally giving you something, and you're like, yeah, free is too expensive. Like,
yeah.
Thanks.
Seriously,
But no
like,
thanks.
But to hear those other two positive experiences, I mean, that must make you feel really good.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 is not bad at all.
And especially
what,
those 2 out of 3.
yeah. I'll tell you what, that those 2 interactions carried me through, because I published 4 years ago the first time around, and I went about it the whole wrong way, which is why I've switched publishers and redoing everything. And but in those 4 years, I've sold about 80 books. Like last year for taxes, I think I had to claim like $2.50 worth of profit for the year. It was not a financially successful book, but stuff like Anne Rice and Ari Salvatore's responses are enough to make me go, I'm gonna go ahead and keep writing. There's one other person who goes out as well, but she's not famous, so I won't mention her. I won't name drop her.
But look, at the end of the day, that's what you need. You know, I mean, they're both successful accredited writers, and they're saying, we want you to continue on this path. We want to support you. There's nothing better than that, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, wow, that must be amazing. That's a great story. And thank you for sharing that with us on our podcast, because I think we don't do this, obviously, we don't do this for the fame or the money or anything like that. We just want to help authors get their work out there, get more people reading, get more people interested in different kinds of books. And I've discovered so many amazing books since we started doing this podcast. So many authors we've had on that have just hooked me. And I've ended up, you know, buying their books and reading them, and my bookshelf is growing. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's my digital bookshelf, because I do buy a lot digitally, because I like to take it with me when I go to work and when I travel, and also physically, like I've actually bought physical copies or got physical copies of our guests, and that's what we want to try and do. We just, you know, I couldn't care less if we never made a cent off this podcast. I just want to help authors get their stuff out there.
Thank you for saying that, because I've tried to explain that theory to so many people, and people don't seem to really get it.
No.
Like I would rather be Tolkien than Rowling at the end of the day. Like, don't get me wrong. If I made billions of dollars off of my book, I wouldn't go, shucks. Like, this is so unacceptable. I'm so
that's
mad
not your
about having made
motivation.
money. But
that's
I
not
would
your
rather
motivation.
make a world that lives on and, you know, inspires others to write and create and so on and so forth. That's why I write, not so that I can make money. It'd be nice to be able to pay the bills with it, but at the end of the day, that's not the reason.
That's not the motivation behind why you write. And I think if you're doing it, if you're writing purely and simply because you want to get famous and you want money, the stories are not going to be as good. You know what I mean? Like,
have you ever read anything by Nora Roberts?
No, I haven't actually.
I can't say I have.
She tends to write romance style of stuff, and then throws fantasy into the mix in trilogies. She has some other stuff that I've been told doesn't do the same thing that angers me about what her trilogies do. But her trilogies, she has about 50 billion of them, and they follow a very specific formula. You know, once you've read one trilogy, you know what's going to happen in every single one of her trilogies.
Yeah.
It's almost like reading a Mad Libs, where she just, okay, she changed some character names, okay, and it's not vampires this time, it's werewolves, okay, and they're not in Scotland, they're in Ireland. Those are two completely different things. Like, and it's just, there's so much similarity between the two or between the 50 million, that it makes it really hard to enjoy more than one trilogy.
So it's like an Adam Sandler film.
A lot like
all
that,
the same formula.
Where where it's just like she figured out she could do it well in that setup, and you know, she makes a lot of money because she's got a lot of books. And I don't know if you guys know this about romance novels, they sell like hotcakes. Romance novel readers, romance novels, people who read romance consume it the way most people consume other forms of inappropriate content that I don't want to mention on your podcast. Exactly. So whereas an avid fantasy reader might read like 1 or 2, maybe even 3 entire fantasy books a week, these guys might go through that in 2 days and just they burn through the books and they keep buying more and keep buying more, and they don't really care that the plot is, you know, help me stepsis, I'm stuck like in Scotland and there's a vampire. They don't care. They're there for one reason and one reason only, and it sells a lot.
And you know, as I said, Jamie uses the Adam Sandler reference. I actually love Adam Sandler and pretty much every single movie he does.
As do I.
And maybe it is that. Maybe it is what you're saying. It's comfortable. It's being comfortable. It's you know what you're going to get.
Porn.
Yeah,
it's humor porn. You know exactly what you're going to get. I want some fart jokes and inappropriate humor, and you know, toss in some slapstick and maybe an inappropriate sexual reference to Chris Farley's nipples. Boom, Adam Sandler.
That is correct. No, and that's it. Yeah.
And his occasional scream. He's like, "Come on!"
Yeah.
Yesterday. I like Adam Sandler. I like older Adam Sandler.
Well, I'm sure Adam Sandler's going to get a lot out of this podcast then, but that's not why we're here. No. Take us through. Take us
really
through Four of a Kind. 100%. Take us through your Kickstarter and your book, Four of a Kind.
So the Kickstarter, as I said, I made $2.50 last year, so I didn't exactly have a whole bunch of money to, you know, pay artists to make custom prints and stuff like that to hand out as rewards. So all of my rewards were things that I could write. Like I offered poems, I offered short stories, I offered homebrew content for
Mhm.
the world's greatest role-playing game that I am not allowed to legally name because of the way the open gaming license is written. You have to refer to it as the world's greatest role-playing game. So
Mhm.
we all know what that is.
We do, yeah.
But homebrew content for that, one guy actually pulled that up for a balconier, a kind of like a joke class that focuses on combat in and around balconies, or on and around balconies. The whole point of it is to be just like very dramatic and over the top kind of combat, as long as it's near a balcony. Like, and I don't know, it's just a lot of interesting things that don't cost me anything but time, because time I can dedicate towards things. Money, there's only so far you can get with $2.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that's a great way to go, because it's more personalized.
yeah.
And I was having a look at the Kickstarter. I'm bummed out that I missed out on it, because I'd see it only ended a couple of days ago. But yeah, I was looking through that, like the homebrew content, the signed bookmark, the poem, you write a short story, and that's, I would much rather something like that than a couple of stickers and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just more personal.
Yeah. See, I was hoping a lot of people would go for the homebrew content, even more so than the higher rewards. Just because I thought it would be neat to, like, as a surprise, if 50 people sign up for homebrew content instead of, one big guy donating the same amount of money. I could make all of their homebrew content and then compile one PDF and then send it to each of them as thanks, so that all of them have all of the homebrew content I made for the Kickstarter instead of just the one that they requested. And I thought that would be cool. Like you said, you started playing in 3rd edition, so you remember those little pamphlets like Tome and Blood and stuff like that, where it was just, hey, here's some stuff you can add in if you want to. And that would be neat to just be able to send everyone one of those. But one guy just bought all the homebrew content. So I don't. He's like, oh yeah, and add this. Oh, and add that. I want to be a shark. Add a shark. And everything was just the same guy. So I can't really send it to everyone who backed these, or he's the only one who backed that particular option. So, but yeah, I figured the more personal touch might be better. And the poetry, for whatever reason, I've been really good at like Dr. Seuss style poetry. I actually made more money last year ghostwriting rap than I did writing fantasy, because of the fact that I can just write down rhymes, and I don't know why I swallowed a fly, but like it was something that I thought, some people might take up. And then it actually got pretty serious, because the guy who signed up, he bought a short story and a poem, and rather than being something I'm familiar with, relating to fantasy and that kind of stuff, he basically wants me to memorialize his grandmother, who passed away last year at the age of 99. And that's heavy, man. Like that's I don't know how to even feel about that. That's a big burden. Like I can write all kinds of magic for you, but when it comes to taking a real person and trying to write a story about them that makes you, as somebody who knew them, feel like you're there with them, that's rough.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely trying to do the best I can with it.
Well, I think that's a great compliment and a great testament to your writing abilities. If the person that backed that particular perk has the trust and faith in you to do something that personal, I think the person's obviously a great fan of your work, and believes that you can do something of that magnitude. So I think that's a great.
See, I would like to take that as a compliment, but he hasn't read my work yet. So
Okay.
I think he's having faith without having any proof whatsoever, if that makes sense. He's hoping I do a good job. But I don't know. I can't really take it as a compliment because he hasn't read the book yet. Like, you know what I mean? All he's read is a couple of posts on Reddit. So,
but yeah. So do you want to go into a bit of the story of Four of a Kind for us and give our viewers a bit of an idea on what the story's about?
I can do that. So basically, similar to D&D, there's two main types of magic users in my world. There's sorcerers and wizards. Sorcerers are the types who can, cast all day long, but they're kind of one-trick ponies. Whereas wizards are the versatile ones that exhaust quickly. Akynd are a man-made hybrid of the two, where they used a ritual to basically take the strengths of each and forge one new unique type of magic user that can learn on the fly and basically have that unique knack for casting whatever spell that comes to mind. Mm-hmm. So rather than, your sorcerer who's only good at fire spells or something like that, if you think, I'd really like to be able to cast web or something like that, but you've never really studied web, it doesn't matter. You've got the knack for it. So you can just cast web now. It all started from a homebrew class I made that ended up being way too overpowered for a balanced campaign, but was just strong enough to make a viable vigilante in a fantasy world. So that's what I did. I took 4 characters, Keldon, Ramuk, Jillian, or Jillian, if you'd rather pronounce it like that, and Gabrielle, who are all these Akynd, and take to a life of vigilantism to try and rid the world of evils big and small. Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but if he were a mage instead of a spider, bit by a radioactive sorcerer.
That's really cool. I don't think I've ever heard of anything like that. Where'd the idea come from? Did it just come to you, or how'd you come up with it?
Kind of based on just playing Dungeons and Dragons and then reading through R.A. Salvatore specifically. It, as a D&D nerd, you read R.A. Salvatore stuff and it kind of feels like this is just somebody telling you about what happened at D&D, like really good telling you about what happened at D&D. But I mean, this is Dris de Werden is not a character, it's his character, and he's just telling you what his character did last session. And it feels like that. And I don't know, it kind of made me think, what if I did that? What if I took concepts based on role-playing games and brought them into a world where they tried to change things for the better? Like, because in D&D, it's always, you have your one shots and your small, we're only going to make it to level 4. You planned a character to make it to level 20, but at level 4, scheduling issues are going to come up and you're never going to make it past that level.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I take my characters and put them in this world of my creation, then they'll be able to fill their entire plot line. They'll be able to go from start to finish without having to worry about who's going to be able to make it on Tuesday and do we have enough Cheetos, and like you don't have to worry about any of that.
We ran into a lot of that kind of stuff with one of our players who could, we had to kind of just go, he was a centaur character, and we're like, he's off fighting the wars of, really planning a wedding, but he was off fighting in the wars of 1,000 just so he could continue on because we were recording. So You know, I feel you there, man. I feel you.
See, I gotta love those random things that were tossed in. We have a homebrew feat that we've used for 15 years now called Epic Movie Death. And Epic Movie Death, what it allows is if your character dies in combat,
Yeah.
you're allowed to instead lay there and not die until somebody else comes up to you, at which point you're allowed 1 minute to talk, and then you die forever. You cannot be resurrected. You cannot be saved. You're just, because there's so many movies where it's like Aunt May, like
Yep.
she was dead. She was dead. There's no, I'm gonna hang out and have a conversation with Peter. Like,
She was dead as soon as that glider hit her.
yeah, and there's people who, you know, get disintegrated and they lay there on the ground and they're like, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark.
Yeah. Look, that's one I'm willing to forgive. That's one I'm willing to forgive, because that moment.
Spider sense. Yeah.
Oh, seriously, like that moment. I think I was sitting next to Jamie when we watched that movie, and that was just. I am a very emotional person. Like, I get attached, especially Spider-Man is my first. That got me into comics. I've been reading. I'm 40 now. Spider-Man I've been reading since I was 8.
Yeah.
And I still read regularly every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And will have me in pretty much in tears or choked up or goosebumps. Like
that one death is the one epic movie death that I'll ever forgive because of the spider sense.
Yeah,
because of the whole way it works. It teaches them how to avoid it and blah 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 blah. And oh, surprise, this one is completely irrevocably unavoidable. What would that feel like? Massive impending doom. Like, just Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. That's exactly what that feels like.
And I think we should honor the MCU version and call it by its real name, the Peter Tingle. I love that. I last night when I was watching No Way Home with my housemate, and you could see the things. I'm like, oh look, it's the Peter Tingle. Like, I know it has a spider sense. I know Spidey sense. I've known it as many years, but I just love how they called it the Peter Tingle.
But yeah, with that epic movie death, my son actually, he was 13, I want to say at the time, and his character died this horrible death. None of us even really remember how he died, but he decided to use his epic movie death. So he's laying there waiting for combat to be over so that we can all go up and hear his dying words. And he goes, "You have to save Whoville." So it's like your centaur off at a wedding. It's just like, all right, this whole campaign's just been derailed. We had plans and plans and plans, and now this character's dying wish is that we're gonna have a Dr. Seuss one-shot next session, evidently.
And you have to do it because it's a dying wish.
It's a dying wish. We had to, like, especially because it was a dying wish from a kid who's 13 and still pretty new to D&D, and I think it was his first character death. So it was just like, yeah, we gotta. And thing 1 and thing 2 were 3-headed dogs. The Grinch was the mayor. Like, it was an intense one shot.
But you can always see, that's a good thing about D&D. You can always just explain it away by like, oh, there's a portal. We don't know what's behind the portals. We're just going to go through, and there's Whoville.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how you can do it. Portals and magic. Magic is everything.
Exactly. Magic did it.
I love how we just get completely off topic and just jump straight into D&D, because I reckon we could do that, as I said, for the next 7 hours. Can I ask a question? So now that the Kickstarter's over, and obviously you mentioned it was funded 350% or 350 whatever that was, which is amazing, which is fantastic. So when people like me and the rest of our listeners going to be able to get their hands on it?
Theoretically, from what I've been told by my publisher, who's handling all the editing, formatting, and all that, it should be available as of March 17th. I have yet to get an exact date on the audiobook, because the audiobook, the narrator actually caught COVID and was messed up for a good while. And
Mhm.
if in any position that would kind of mess with your ability to work, let
Mhm.
alone one where you're literally narrating a book.
Yeah.
Like a
Make it very
little
interesting.
rasp in your throat makes a big difference. All of a sudden your big bad guy turns into Macy Gray, and things aren't the same.
Always blowing their nose,
Yeah. The
I
bad
love
guy all of a
love
sudden has an evil cough.
it. So is that going to be coming out on Audible?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Because I'd like to get my hands on that. So when that comes out, I love my audio because I can listen at work as well.
Yeah, I'm not
Like
sure
that.
if it's Audible specifically.
Mhm.
I know the publisher I went with, Pandora,
Mhm.
they are a small like startup publisher. That's why we ran a Kickstarter instead of the publishing house just covering all of the costs that they would
Yeah.
normally cover for an author. But I know she's trying to stay away from Amazon as much
Okay.
as possible, because of the fact that Amazon is killing everything else. Like any other source of books is just really, really trying hard not to drown in the rising tide that is Amazon.
Yeah.
So she's trying to provide an alternative to that. I don't know if Audible is linked with them or not.
Yeah, Audible is an Amazon thing. So
Okay. Okay. So I'm not sure how the audiobook is going to be whatever distributed. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm not sure how it's going to be distributed, but I can get that information from her and send it to you then.
yeah, that way we just so we can plug it, and we can maybe have you on just before it comes out in terms of the audiobook side of things. But yeah, man, I definitely want to get behind it. It sounds like it's right up my alley. So I just wanted to find out when we can get our hands on it.
Gotcha.
And what are you currently working on? You working on anything at the moment?
Right now I'm trying to bust out all of the custom stuff for the Kickstarter.
Mhm.
As soon as that's done, my wife is a school teacher, and in America that we get summers off for
Mhm.
not she'll kill me if I say that. They don't have a 9 to 5 job
Yeah.
anymore during summer.
Yeah.
So during summer, she is actually going to be spending that 9 to 5 with our daughter, and I'm going to be spending that 9 to 5 working on the sequel for Four of a Kind, and hopefully, if things go well, then the third book and maybe the fourth book, and because I'd like it to be a full series. I have an idea of where I want it to go. I don't want it to be a one book and done kind of deal. I want it to be like Salvatore's, where it's if you want to stop reading 12 books in, you can,
Yeah.
because you don't like the way he took Wolfgar, and that's okay. Like you've still got these 12 books you really enjoyed, and that's
Yeah.
okay. So I'd like to have something like that and just continue on and add more and more as time goes on. The hardest part is that my memory is just trash. So for every page of work I do, I have to reread every page I've written and have an encyclopedia full of notes where everything that I have created is specifically outlined. I'm glad that I finally got my language program up and running, because I actually went to school for programming years and years ago, and I wrote a little simple C++ program
Mhm.
that helps me with language creation and translation.
Okay.
So instead of having to do things Tolkien's way, where you sit down with a dictionary and just invent a word for
Yeah.
every word in the dictionary and move on, this thing walks you through how to create a language ish, and then will let you translate in real time. So I can type
Wow.
in a phrase and it'll automatically translate it to one of my creatures. They aren't visibly in book one. They're spoilers.
Mhm.
but they're a bigger player in book 2. So
I'm definitely looking forward to that, and I can assure you I'll be picking up a copy of the book as soon as it becomes available, so I can read through, because it really sounds like my cup of tea.
it's appreciated, and as I tell absolutely everybody, I'd love to know what you think.
100%.
I'm not one of those authors who's gonna say, oh, whatever you send me, I'm gonna throw it in the trash. I'm one of those authors who, like, there's a 7th grade girl whose dad reached out to me to let me know that his daughter had wrote a book report on my book.
Oh wow.
Oh,
And
wow.
I wanted a copy of it. Like, I wanted a copy of it so I could frame it and put it on my wall. Like, I forget talking about it, man. People think success as an author is making a whole bunch of money or something like that. And in my mind, you don't make it as an author until there's fanfic and there's fan art and there's people making D&D characters inspired by things in your book. And
Yeah.
that's the inspiration that you infect people with. That's what makes you a successful author, in my opinion.
I agree.
And I don't know, that's just, you can't beat that.
No, not at all. And that's the ultimate form of flattery. You know, it must make you feel, as I said with the previous conversation we had about Anne Rice, it must make you feel really good to hear those stories.
Yeah. And when I was told about how adamantly she pursued people that wrote fanfic, I was really happy that she did not see the one time I've ever done any kind of fanfic involving Anne Rice. It was old, like 3 years ago, a writing prompt on Reddit. And it was an arena battle between authors.
Okay.
And each author would show up to this arena battle and summon a character from their world. And then all of those characters would just do battle to the death, arena style in Rome. And George R.R. Martin was there, and he actually got disqualified because all his characters were already dead. But Lestat showed up as Anne Rice's representative, and Edward Cullen showed up as
Oh God.
Stephanie Myers, and the battle started, and Lestat just ran for him. Harry Dresden is over there, and Lestat doesn't give a shit about anybody. He's there to kill the sparkle bitch.
Yes.
And it was just, I feel like she would have got a kick out of it, but at the same time, I don't know, she was so iconic. I'm glad it never got ruined. I would have hated to see a different side of her.
Yeah.
I can just picture it now. Imagine you're commissioning an artist to Lestat standing on top of Edward Cullen's body with his severed head, holding him up like that. Vampire bitch, that kind of thing,
But I mean, Dresden got killed by Yoda. Jim Butcher, the author for the Dresden Files. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Dresden Files,
100%.
but he's sitting in the stands and he's like, "Damn it, that would be Dresden." Like, he would just, because he didn't even try. He was just like, killed by Yoda. That's the way to go.
I love it. Absolutely.
But I was in it as well, because that's how, after I ran out of D&D campaigns to put my characters through, I started writing them into writing prompts so that I could get a feel for even more things. So the 4th character I mentioned, Gabrielle, is in it, because she was the hardest for me to get into the headspace of, because she's a 7-year-old girl with telekinetic powers that quad wields katanas, and I've never been that.
No.
Because that's not any part of my life have I ever had telekinetic powers to wield 4 swords at once. But I don't know, she went from being a character who was supposed to die to being one of my favorites, if not my favorite. Like, I like her, and that's the one Anne Rice said Claudia reminds her of. I think that's just because anytime a 7-year-old girl is creepy and strong, if you're familiar with Claudia, everyone's gonna go, that kind of makes me think of Claudia.
Oh I'm definitely looking forward to that. So would you want to tell our listeners where they can learn more about you, where they can find you, social medias, that kind of thing?
I am on Facebook and Twitter, and I have a whole bunch of links. I think my best bet would be to email those to you, because I would need to pull them up and find them. I really did not come prepared for.
That's right. I'll throw them on the screen
aspect,
and put them in the show notes. So
okay.
In the future.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. And yeah, anytime you want to come back on, we feel like we've really connected here because we're all nerds, and we love talking to nerds. Yeah. So anytime you want to come back on, let us know.
Okay.
We'll make it happen.
Okay. Awesome.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching and listening, guys, and we'll catch you next time. Hello listeners and watchers, Jamie here. I just wanted to take a second to let you know that I too am an author, and I have 2 books of my own. 1, Letters from the Emu War. Based on a real-life event, it tells the story of the time when the Australian Army declared war on 20,000 flightless birds and lost. This book is written from the perspective of those who won. And 2, Bucks Night. First in a trilogy of novellas, it's about a medieval-themed Bucks party that is interrupted by the zombie apocalypse. You can find them both on Amazon by following the links in the show notes.